speech writing. And for prepared speech, and I would be in charge of the writing part. And Jason would be in charge of the presentation, yes, expression part. Please wait for a minute. So how many of you here is your first time here at an SGD? Please raise your hand. Wow, good. Oops. Okay, there it goes. So first, I'm going to share with you some of the big tips about how to write a script. And because we have a limited of time, and Jason and I think the most important point of this SGD is to save time for you to practice, so you can really grow from it. So we'll just give you a few points of what we think are the most important part of writing and presentation, and then we'll move into the practice part at the latter part of this SGD. So first, I would like to introduce to you the writing in 3 different sections, before, during, and after. So later in my part, I'll tell you the important things before you write a script, during writing, and after writing. So first, let's move into the before part. Mainly speaking, there are 2 kinds of speech draft. The first one is called verbatim. That means that you write down every word that you're going to say on the stage on your script. Well, this is the most fundamental and basic kind of script, and it is very suitable for novice, for newcomers, to have such speech draft, so they can memorize it all. And another kind is key point. For example, today I'm doing an SGD for about 20 minutes, and if I have to write down every word I have to say and memorize it all, I would not be able to do the SGD. So instead of writing down every word, I list out some key points. For example, today the PowerPoint itself is my hint. It gives me some cues about what I'm going to say. So mainly there are these two kinds of speech draft, and you can choose what is most suitable for you. And for C1 speeches, I would strongly recommend the verbatim one. So after we know 2 kinds of styles of speech drafts, here comes the material part. What should we write inside our speech? Well, mainly, first, of course, always we have stories. Stories from yourself, which I recommend the most, because these are things you have experienced and you have emotions about it the most. And that is the thing you can represent to your audience the best, because you have a passion or you have the emotion inside your story. So you can talk in detail and talk something deep about it. In another case, if it is stories of celebrities, you might not know so well of them. But the advantage of talking about the stories of celebrity is that they have an effect of endorsement. People will believe that what you're going to tell them is very important because of these celebrities. For example, during the demo 2, Michelle gave a speech about this girl, Malala. And through her speech, she used Malala as a material to share with us some of her thoughts. So this is also a good way. And the third part is, of course, news. So another big category of material comes from ideas. You may need to research some statistics to support yourself, look through some research, and organize your thought in a logical way. So these are the 2 categories of where material comes from, stories and ideas. When you got these in place, you'll have the main goal of your speech and the main topic. So what are some good ways for us to collect materials? Because what I've just said seems easy, right? But in most of the cases, we're thinking very, very hard about what we're going to say in a speech. So I have some advices for you. First one, you can bring a notebook at hand. Take myself for example. I don't sit in front of my computer to think of my next speech, what I'm going to say. I don't do that in front of my computer because my brain will go blank and I won't know what should I type inside a computer and I will get panicked. So most of the time, when and where do my topics come into my mind? Well, most often is when I'm taking a bath, taking a bus, or before I went into sleep, lying on my bed. So for me, it is really important to take a notebook with me anywhere, anytime. So I finished my C6 speech on my bed, writing on my notebook. Yes, just like it. Through the notebook, you can write down many, many profound thinking and some materials you get from your daily life. So I strongly recommend that all of you can carry a notebook with you. And because it is a very convenient era right now, we have some electronic devices. So I also recommend if you have some electronic devices like iPad and iPhone, you can try to use Evernote. So what is Evernote? It's kind of like an online notebook. So you can see on the screen, for example, I have a folder or a notebook called TM, and I write down everything on it. Some inspiration I get, and some maybe future topics for my future speeches. Yeah. And another good thing about Evernote, it has an app called Clearly. So for example, if I want to deliver a speech about the origin of toasting. Yeah. Why is Toastmaster called Toastmasters? It is because we're here to train ourselves to toast, right? And to speak, to communicate. So I have to have some research first. So maybe I went on the internet and I found this article and I like it and I want to include it into my speech or save it as my material. So you can use this tool Clearly, and it will copy the article only instead of these ads and buttons you see around there. So it's really convenient to use it to collect your materials. So two things, notebook and Evernote. And also, we have a handbook from the headquarters. If you are a formal member of us, you'll get this competent communication handbook. And the objects and the subjects related to writing are C2, C3, C4, and C7. So you can also refer to these parts in the handbook to check some writing tips. So now, after all the preparation before writing, here I'm going to share with you what we should do during writing. So first, the fundamental part, structure. Opening should grab the attention of the audience. Body is the part you extend your ideas and thoughts. In conclusion, you need to have a powerful ending. So how can we accomplish all of these in one speech? Now, first part, opening. So later, I'm going to show you some examples of what I think is a good opening. And because there are thousands and hundreds ways of opening, so I will just list some of them out for you as a reference. And there are mainly two kinds of ways. First is to get the audience involved. And the second is to get them surprised. So by these two kinds of ways, we can attract the attention of audience. So first part, how do we involve the audience into our speech? This is very important because once we have a connection with the audience, they will think what we're speaking on stage is really related and important to them. So here are some examples. First way, maybe you can find out about your audience. Make a survey, ask a question, For example, if I want to share with you the benefit of drinking green tea, this is how I would open. How many people here regularly drink green tea, and how many of you are aware of the health benefits from drinking it? So by doing these kinds of survey, you connect the audience daily life with their speech topic and raise their curiosity by conducting a survey among them. And the second kind of technique is called create a scenery. This is mostly seen in speeches that are related to storytelling. For example, if you're sharing your own experience. So if I want to share with you how frightened I felt on the stage before, I might try to create a scenery from my past experience and that you, the audience, feel what I felt then. So this is how I will start. Dazzling lights stroked my eyes recklessly as I stepped onto the enormous stage. All was quiet. Dead silence, I would say. Instead of the rapidly pumping heart roaring in my chest. So by creating these kind of scenery, you pull the audience back with you into your memory. You involve them into your story, into your description. So this is also a good way. And the third part, ask a rhetorical question. So what's a rhetorical question? It's a question that you will answer later. For example, if you want to talk about something about earthquake, you may start like this. We live in an earthquake-prone region, like Taiwan. Do you know how safe the building is that you live or work in? Do you think it will survive an earthquake? So by this way, you actually bring out the main point of your whole speech in the very beginning of your speech. And the audience can understand you and follow you very clearly in the latter part of your speech. So these will be the first part. Try to involve the audience. And the second part is about surprises. First, you can refer to surprising data or facts. For example, if I want to introduce to you PowerPoint, I can show you some data. The skills of presentation with visual aids has become more and more popular these days. So this will be my core value and main point. And I use some data or facts that might be out of your expectation to support myself. So I say there are over 300 million PowerPoint users in the world who do an estimated 30 million presentations every day. So I use this material to support what I said in the previous part. And the second part, our openings can stand against the audience expectations. Take her speech, for example. It was about 1 year or 2 years ago. This was a very senior member in Toastmasters. She is called Yiru. And during the demo speech, how many of you have attended this demo speech this semester? Quite many. So you will know that in this demo speech, most of the speakers are trying very, very hard to persuade you, oh, why you should stay in NTU Toastmasters. NTU Toastmasters is so important to me. Like a big family, helped me grow. Well, all of them are true, I think. But Yiru used a different way to persuade everyone to stay. She went against the audience expectation. So her speech was like this. Good evening, everyone. In the summer vacation we just went through, I thought very hard to figure out a proper speech for today's demo meeting. Well, maybe I should start at, once upon a time, a little girl opened the door of NTU Toastmasters and finally met her destiny. Or I should conclude the speech in, come join us, we'll be a happy family. However, this kind of storytelling is totally not my style. Now it's time to tell the truth. I want to make a confession that I haven't told anyone before. I hate speeches. So this was what she started. when everyone was expecting her to say how much she loved NTU Toastmasters. She started like this. So this is also a good way to leave a strong impression on your audience. And the next part, you can start with an interesting image. Say, for example, today, I want to share with you how important for us to brush our teeth every time after we eat something. So maybe I'll say, before I begin, I'd like to show you something. A picture. A picture of the tooth destroyed by bacteria. So visual things like image, video, they give the audience an impact, sometimes even more powerful than your words. So using these kind of materials are also a good way to start. So the main point is to catch the attention of the audience in your opening. So after the opening, what should we do in the body part? To expand your ideas and stories. And there are 3 main points I like to share with you. The first one is that any story or any material you're using should have a twist or turn. Instead of saying it quite the same in the monotone from the beginning to the bottom, we should have some up and downs in the middle part so that the audience won't feel too bored. And the second one is, all of our speeches should have a really logical flow so the audience can follow us very easily. And especially, we had to pay attention to the bridging part of our paragraphs, how to move from the previous paragraph to the latter one, so that we have a really smooth, logical flow. And the third one, of course, quite coherent to the opening part. We should also have a connection with the audience. We should let the audience know what I'm going to share with you is really relevant to you. And we have to make sure that the audience will like to listen to what we're going to say. And in order to make it easier for you to memorize, it's TLC. If you have watched TV before, Travel and Living channel. Yeah, so the 3 main points, TLC, twist, logic, and connection. Okay, so let's move into writing via speech. And I think this is the most important part in the body. What's the difference between writing and speech? Well, for writing, the reader is the one who holds the control. Because if you don't get it, you can't understand the paragraph. You can reread it again. But for a speech, when we're saying, the speaker is the one who holds the control. So it is really important for the speaker to make sure that he or she expresses her ideas clearly and the audience can follow. So let's look at some differences between writing and a speech. First, in our speech draft, we should always try to use colloquial words. In other words, these are the words we use in daily lives when we're having a conversation with each other. Now here's an example. In a speech, these kinds of words may be hard for the audience to follow. So maybe you can close your eyes now and try to hear what I'm going to say. In fact, when I take a candid inspection into it, I'm astonished that it kept putting influential effects upon me. It's kind of like a tongue twister for the audience to follow. So instead of saying it in such a literature way, maybe we can change it into this. In fact, when I look back on it frankly, I'm astonished or surprised that it keeps on influencing me even until today. So we can simplify some grammar rules or some words that we have never heard before, like candid, in these paragraphs. to make the audience understand your ideas better. Because speech is not about bragging or letting the audience know how much vocabulary you have or how well you can write. The most important part is that they can catch your idea and they can remember it. So use colloquial words as more often as possible. And the second one, remember to breathe. So the pauses in your speech draft are also important. A pause has two main functions. First, punctuation. These are like the up and downs and the punctuation mark you see in these kind of articles. How you read them and how you arrange your sentences and pauses can lead the audience follow your logic flow better. And the second function is for attracting attention. For example, often we put a stop or a pause before something we think is important to attract the attention of the audience. Yeah, like now, I made a pause. I was silent, and so you're like writing, and what happened? What was he doing? And so I attract your attention. So this is a good example of how to use a pause. And here I have a quote. So besides allowing you to fill your lungs with air, pausing also allows the audience to absorb the spoken words and create pictures in their own minds. The habit of pausing eliminates the dreaded and which the counter counts, and adds emphasis to your last point. So this is a good demonstration of the function of putting pauses into your script. And the third difference, avoid jargons. Jargons are the words we use in our professional field. For example, here are some jargons. Conceptualize, I think it's from psychology. Interface, parameters, maybe it's from math. Utilization and viable. These kinds of words sounds cool, but may be hard to understand. So instead, we can change it into some words that we see more often in our daily lives. Conceptualize actually just means imagine. Interface, talk with. Parameters, limits. Utilization, use. Viable, possible. So by changing these words to more of a daily life vocabulary, it will be easier for the audience to understand you. Last part, conclusion. The most common way to conclude is to give a summary or a review of your speech, so you can bring out again the core value of your whole speech. Or you can use a quote to leave a stronger impression in others' mind. For example, if I'm talking about happiness, I might try to quote from Jim Rohn. Happiness is not something you postpone for the future. It is something you design for the present. These kind of sentences are short but powerful. So you can use these quotes to support your core value. And the second way is to call for actions. Say, if I'm delivering a speech introducing why the nuclear power plant that will be built is harmful for Taiwan. Well, that's just an example, not my personal opinion. But if I'm saying this, I might try to call for actions. Call for actions from the audience. Call for them to care more about the future of Taiwan, to care about the news, to care about these important issues. So we call for action and hope that these speeches, my speech, can change how the audience think and what they will do. So this is also a way to conclude call for actions. And the last one is take-home message. You may leave some take-home message for the audience to think, to be the food for their thought. So these are the ways of conclusion. So let's have a brief review. In the opening, we should capture the audience attention and lead into our speech topic, the main point. In the body, we expand our stories and ideas with different main points, subpoints, and other supporting materials. And in conclusion part, we'll have a review or summary. Or maybe we can call for action from the audience. So this is the part during writing a script. Now what about after we finished writing our script? There are only two things in my mind after I write a script. Rehearsal plus revision. Because during our rehearsal, we'll find something awkward in our draft that might be hard for us to pronounce or memorize. Or the logic flow there might be a little bit awkward. So by rehearsal over and over again, we can find some mistakes in our script and make it more colloquial to us, more easy for us to present. So after rehearse, we go and revise our script and rehearse again. So this process continues for like 3 or 4 cycles, then you will have a perfect speech with you. Okay, so this is my part, and now I'll leave the time to Jason for the presentation part. Let's welcome him.